Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Monday night's BigFooty Tigercast. Hope everyone's doing well. We're back after another win, back-to-back wins, uncharted territory for this year, EJ. It's definitely good to be on the winners list yet again, especially when you see some of the other results today and over the course of the round, which I will touch on later. Not necessarily today's one, but maybe yesterday's one in a certain other team that begins with the letter C, just dwindling away underneath us. So I might have a few things to mention there. But how are you going, mate? You going well?
Oh, I'm going great, and I'm feeling much better because we come in after a win. But this week I've actually tipped us, so I actually feel a lot more comfortable with myself.
Yeah, well, did we all tip us? I can't remember if some of us went against.
I think we did.
I think we all did jump on board this week. It was the week before. Yeah. I think we had a few jump off, including me. But I hope everyone who's watching is going well. Hope everyone has had a pretty good weekend. Should be a quick show tonight. Not too many topics happened affecting the Richmond Football Club this week, so not just a quiet week as usual. Teagues was meant to be on, but his headaches have sort of given him a bit of a kick up the backside, so he's feeling no good. So Teagues, if you are listening at any stage, hope you're feeling better, mate. CB's just gotten back from his junket in Perth, so he might be a late addition if he can get home in time. And Grok is out for dinner with the family, so for the moment, you're stuck with EJ and I, but that should be fine. We'll be all good. I did laugh at this one. The rumor has it that CB has new dentures. Did have a good laugh at that. Teagues is going. He has his moments. RFC. He has his moments. So he'll get through, from what I can tell, a lot of the day seemingly okay. But as it gets on a bit, it probably hits him a little bit harder. So that's why during the day he'll often think he'll be okay for the show, but then come the evening, unfortunately, he's not feeling quite himself, and he doesn't want to put anything at risk. His health first and foremost, but he doesn't want to put on a bad show, so to speak. So hopefully Tiggs is feeling better. But geez, where do you start, EJ? Where do you start? Well, okay, let's. Sorry, I have to put this up because and I know what you're laughing at because you said the same thing to me before the show. Marcus with the hair transplant, reason for the beanie on. EJ said to me, it's a good way to hide the hairline by wearing a beanie before we went to air.
Our audience is nothing if not predictable.
No, they're paying very close attention. I suppose the first thing we'll say straight off the bat is we'll obviously acknowledge the Marlon Pickett situation, but we aren't going to talk about it because there's not much known in the way of fact at the moment. So the only thing we'll say is we hope Marlon and his family are well. And obviously we'll let everything take its due course and then make further discussion and comments on it when that all becomes known and official from a police perspective, because there's no real point adding any extra innuendo or whatever to a situation that's going to impact him and his family. And I encourage people on the socials not to engage with people who are going down that path or are being racist or being whatever. Just don't interact with it. There's no need for it. Just let it run its course, and then we can talk about it once there's an official finding, whenever that may be. So we just wish Marlon and his family all the best on that front.
Now, Nick, I'm not going to turn the light on because I don't want to subject people to myself. No, I'm in a part of the house when I do the podcast where the light is actually behind me, not in front of me, and unfortunately, there's not much I can do about it. But whilst we're giving out well wishes, can we also give a bunch of well wishes to the whole Hooley clan, Basher and his family as well? Obviously, with the accident up in New South Wales or Canberra over the weekend, sounds like some reasonably serious injuries. But the reports coming out are that he is stable and in good spirits, all things considered. So it'll be a long recovery process, but we're all behind him. We love you, Bash, and hope you and your family are all okay.
Exactly right. So I'd heard the same thing from someone who knows him, that he is doing well. I mean, albeit with the pelvis injuries, not great, but and he's in good spirits. So hopefully, it has a speedy recovery. It's never good to hear of those stories. So all the best to Basher and his family.
Oh, these comments are killing me tonight. Don't worry, James. Thank you for Zac Efron sometimes. I get mistaken for Uncle Fester or Shrek. I've never had Zac Efron.
Jesus. The audience are cruel. No, that's okay. It's okay. For those who have just joined, I know I have seen a couple of comments come in asking about Tig, so I'll just sort of reiterate what I said at the start, that he was planning on coming on the show tonight, but as the days get on, the headaches and that become a bit worse for him, and he just had to make a call not long beforehand that he just wasn't feeling well enough to come on. So He does want to get on every week, but his health comes first and foremost. So hopefully Tiggs is doing well on that front. Yes, and fingers crossed for Bash's mate and anyone else who was involved in that incident. Hopefully they all come through okay. So it's terrible incident, but hopefully they all come through well and recover quickly. So was that the only other? I think that was the only other off-topic pieces. But was there anything else, CJ, or did we go straight into the Freo bit?
Oh, let's go to the Freo game.
Go to the Freo bit. All right, so we had a pretty good win against the Dockers, 12-13-85 to Freo, 10-10-70 by 15 points, which was a very nice win. I'll go through the goal kickers quickly. Jaden Short with 3 absolute long-range bangers. Tim Taranto with 2, who's just snuck his way up to about 145th now. Although Kane Corns has done a little bit of backpedaling today, I reckon. That was interesting. Absolutely. It's good to see everyone reminding him at every opportunity that he's got that one drastically wrong. Jack Rewalt with 2, Jack Ross with 1, Toby Nankervis 1, Mansell 1, Juddy Clark 1, and Bolton 1. The game itself, I feel like that our first quarter, bar the first 5 minutes of that first quarter, I think that aside really kind of set up our game. And while it was a bit disappointing they got back into it, which I'm sure there's a few reasons that we'll touch on later, I was really, really impressed with the resolve and the determination from the guys not to let it slip. And the one player in particular I want to mention straight off the top, Bolton, had a phenomenal last quarter in a point in time where I think a lot of us felt he maybe faded from games quite a bit. Yes. That last quarter of his was really, really good.
14 possessions, 5 clearances, a goal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he did a fair bit in the last quarter. Yep, he was pretty good. The coaches' votes just came in, interestingly.
Oh, yeah, what'd they go with?
Rightio. So coaches' votes, it was 9 for Timmy, 9 for Shea. So they split the 5 and the 4. 5 for Vlosten. 3 for Sarong, 2 for Amos, and 1 for Short, and 1 for Jackson.
You've really missed an opportunity there to say 1 for O'Gorman. I really thought that was going to be...
I was leaving the umpiring until a little bit later.
No, we'll leave that a bit later. Oh, gosh. But, that's 2... I would class 15 points as a close game, especially given the circumstances with how they were coming at us, EJ. So it's been a good turnaround mentally from our lot to now win 2 close ones, as opposed to, I would say, they're games we would have typically dropped in the past.
Yeah, I'm sure we all had some concerns when Freo went bangity bang, early in the last, and it closed up to was it 7 points or 9 points or whatever it was. When it got back to single digits, I'm sure we all had thoughts, oh, here we go again, can we hang on? But we steeled up really well, and we were fantastic late. There was a lot of people that had very, very good games. I think it was Vlosten's best game of the year. Clearly his best game of the year. Nank was again massive. Dusty had a sneaky good game. He is so close to having a big game.
And
he had 27. Go on.
No, you go, because I'll just tack on to what you were saying.
27 possessions. He had 575 metres gained. He had 9 score involvements. He's just not putting them through the sticks. If he converts 1 or 2 of those opportunities to goals, we're talking about him having 27 and 2, and how good is he? He's that. And for anyone in any way to say that he is not invested, you look at that game and you look at his. And again, I think we've highlighted it the last 2 or 3 weeks. His defensive efforts. I think he had 25 pressure points or 27 pressure points. Like, his defensive efforts are right there. He's in. He's in for this.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big noticeable differences crossing over from Dimmer to Mini is Dimmer, I suppose, went into the season, and we all thought this was the right move, is to play him more forward than midfield. But I think Mini's gone back the other way, and I think as a team we've benefited more from Dusty doing his midfield thing. The balance seems better up forward in terms of speed and pace, and he's obviously dangerous with the ball in hand. I know age is obviously a thing, with Dusty. He's not getting any younger, but he's definitely playing a lot better football since spending more midfield minutes.
Yep. And there's another bloke that, might have a milestone this week that is playing a bit more in the midfield as well, and he had another pretty reasonable game.
Yeah, and whether it's to do with them playing in roles that they know they're familiar with, and it kind of just then stems down from there. I'm not too sure, but both Koch and Dusty had a very good game. And I know you've been a big thing of this as well. You look at Bolton bulk midfield minutes, and that it produces that kind of game. 925 meters gained. I can't remember the last time he would have got anywhere near remotely close to that. The last quarter, the setting up behind the ball was excellent from him. He put himself in the right position every time, and he was just rebounding it back in, and he wasn't being selfish. There was a few times he probably could have blazed away, but he was lowering the eyes, trying to find the targets, doing the things I think we've all been screaming out for him to do.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that has been missing in his game. Like, Dusty is an inherently unselfish player who his ability to distribute as well as do what he does is one of the reasons why he's so great. If you look at a Dangerfield who goes, I'm going to do it, and Danger's a great player, but the opposition know what Danger's going to do because he just goes, I'm going to do it myself. Dusty being unpredictable, sometimes doing it himself, but always looking for teammates. If Shea can build on what he's starting to do in looking to involve his teammates in, it just makes him a better player because it makes him more unpredictable.
Yeah, exactly right. And someone made a good point that he's probably going to be given more opportunities to kick goals by playing in the midfield because the game will open up in front of him. And with his explosiveness and his agility, he's going to get through those one or two plays potentially and have those shots on goal. So I think he's going to play his best football, spending bulk of his time in the midfield for sure. Jaden Short chipped in with 3 goals. I thought he was zoned in at 3, and they looked effortless, mind you, and they cleared the fence. He needs to do. I know we had a little bit of a set play early on in the year. It might have even been pre-season, but we need to run that more often because if teams don't cotton on, if you're just on your range, just hand it off to Shorty and he will just punch that thing through.
Mate, they were all flying through. There's only one kick this weekend I saw that was timed better, and that was Petrarca this afternoon. He hit one from outside 50 to hit the top of the goalpost from a set shot. But Short's ability to generate power through the leg off one step is unbelievable. And yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a very good point. Sneaky, quiet, good game from Graham. Did a lot of grunt work. Where was that?
That one there.
Yep. He was really solid this week, and I've been worried about him.
He was good, and I think maybe lucky that he wasn't facing MRP, but it should have been paid dropping the ball first. He spun him in a 360 twice.
You brought MRP in early.
I know. I didn't mean to. We'll back off that quickly because I know we'll get to that later. But Nick brought up the other one I was going to mention. Baker, again, for the second week in a row, playing predominantly as that small forward. That's probably another move that I feel has added balance to the forward line from a hunting and chasing perspective because it was just completely out of whack.
Yep. Our ability to lock it in is back.
Yeah.
You've got Clark, Mansell, and Baker. We're back to that 3 smalls that are sort of causing the chaos.
Jack Ross, I thought he had another good game. How was his blind turn?
The spin.
Koch-esque.
Yes.
That was very good. I think if there's been a lot of Ross knockers. I think it's fair to say over the journey. But I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think he's 100% shown that he does belong if he keeps producing that kind of football. He's playing smart football, team football to his limitations, and I think he's been fine.
Yep, and just imagine when Cochin retires and he can actually play inside, you'll get even better again.
Yeah, yep.
But
no, he's been good.
Can I put a little bit of a focus on Tim Taranto?
Yeah.
CB's trying to call me.
Oh.
Bad luck. I don't know what to do. I'm not going to answer him live on air. Right, Tim Taranto, 35 disposals, 2 goals, 7 tackles, 7 clearances, 71% disposal efficiency, 15 contested possessions, 11 inside 50s, 6 score involvements. Bang, bang, bang. But here we are in the season, and this is Tim Taranto to this point in the season. After 13 rounds of the 2023 season, has played every game. He's averaging a career-high 31.5 disposals a game, a career-high 13.2 contested possessions a game, a career-high 7 clearances a game, a career-high 4.1 stoppage clearances, a career-high 2.9 centre clearances, a career-high 6.8 tackles, a career-high 405 metres gained, and he's also kicked 12 goals, which is just one behind his best return for an entire season. He kicked 13 goals in 2021. Right? I'm not going to go over to that other person and talk about that, but he is putting forward a season that is just bloody hard to ignore.
He is. I mean, those numbers absolutely stack up. And I actually got criticised by what I can only be assumed a GWS Nuffy or someone of that ilk when I said that he's having a career best year. He's like, "Oh, what would you know? You wouldn't have even known his name until you drafted him. You're just guessing." I'm like, "What are you talking about? The stats are in front of you." He's like dominating in all numbers in all areas of his game. I think it's completely justified the trade. I know Hopper's obviously had injured and he was part of that, but Taranto has been phenomenal and he's only getting better. And maybe he's got a bit of a bee in his bonnet or a point to prove potentially with some of the comments that were made, but he's been ultra damaging. And like we've spoken about, it gives Prestia a bit of a different role and a bit of a chop out as well, which is, a huge benefit for us too.
Prestia's now, like that weekend, he was low key efficient. Like he was probably the 8th to 10th best player, but the numbers were there. They were all good. And yes, Corn. I'm not going there. I'm not going to Corn. I refuse to go to Corn. Let's just bask in what we know and let him reverse whatever truck he's trying to reverse at the moment.
He's doing a big reverse. There has been a lot of people who, even as early as a few weeks ago, were thinking about cheeky little Brownlow bets for Timmy Taranto. And I thought the issue might have been we won't win enough games. Maybe we get a bit closer to that now. You look at the game of the weekend, you can't imagine there'd be too many taking the votes off him. But he was super. He was very, very good. Nank, you mentioned Nank before. What was interesting with Nank was more Jack Rewalt's comments after the game where he believes, and he admitted he might be biased in saying this, but he believes that Nank's the best wet weather ruckman in the comp. So when it started to piss down a bit, Jack had a bit of a smile on his face because that's when Nank really gets to work and causes some damage. So he's just a brute of a man. He does. I was really, really worried when he went off with that. I'm assuming it was a corky because he had his thigh taped up.
I hope it's a corky.
Yeah, well, he come back out, so I assume that he'll be okay. But to that point as well, Samson Ryan has again put in another decent performance, I feel, from both a ruck and a target around the ground perspective.
Yep. All he has to do at this stage is compete and be that second option, and he can develop as Nank is there, and in 2 years' time, we'll be right. 49 hitouts for Nank. That's no good. 8 tackles, 4 clearances, a goal, 5 score involvements. He was pretty tidy.
Just on the tackles, team leader, by the way, if you don't mind, on 8 tackles, the big ruckman. So he's not messing around.
He's not messing around. And when he tackles it, they stay tackled as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
So contested possessions. Shea had 16. Timmy T, 15. Koch had 15. Dion had 13. There's that low key. And Baker in the forward half had 12.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
really,
huge
really
numbers. If we were to look at the comparative numbers from the start of the year, there's no way we're putting out those numbers. Not a chance.
Not a chance. We were getting smashed at the source at the start of the year.
Yeah, and that makes a massive difference to any game, not just us. But if you lose by the amounts we were losing those areas by, you're going to get wiped off the park. So
yeah,
he was.
You're right. I reckon you're right, Travis. We're all waiting for that day. It's like when you were Samson will kick 6 goals one day, 7 goals one day. Unfortunately, with Vickery, it only happened once. But I do get the feeling that Ryan's a bit more consistent and contested than what Vickery ever was. But yeah, we're waiting for that breakout game. It's going to come.
Yeah, he's holding his own though. He's doing exactly what we need him to do. So we'll hopefully he keeps progressing. And like I said last week, I feel like the more games he gets, and the same as Jack Ross, the more they're going to believe they belong at that level, and the better we're going to see them play. So I think that's a big piece of the puzzle too.
I think what you're saying with Ross is now that he's not in out, the actual baseline minimum return is higher. You're not getting the ups and downs. You're getting a higher minimum level of performance, if that makes sense.
That's right. And that comes down to him understanding his role on a consistent basis. So he can actually get out there and, achieve the task that he was set to achieve, which makes it a really, really big difference.
And the confidence in knowing he's going to get picked.
Yes. Yeah, he's not. I know in some instances it's good to play like you think it's your last game or that it's on the line and all that kind of stuff. But I think that can also go the other way, and you can be overstimulated and overdo it the other way, and it comes all undone for you, which has probably happened to plenty of players across the journey. But it is good to see him getting some consistent games. What about our backline as a defensive unit? I did see on Twitter and Facebook some knocks towards Young. Now, I've probably went in and flew the flag for him a little bit because I think it's worth keeping in mind. I don't think he had a bad game, but it's worth keeping in mind that he only started playing football properly in 2019. So he hasn't grown up with this game all his life like the rest of our defenders. He's very, very raw in the grand scheme of things. And I think he's doing okay.
Yeah, no, he's going fine. Look, he's. I think what people get frustrated is there's that turnover which looks a bit cheap and or silly, but what's he doing? What's he doing? He's just but that will naturally work its way out of the game as he understands the role, the system, or whatever. Same thing. He's getting more games. He's feeling more comfortable. His ability to compete one-on-one is not the issue. He's doing that really well. His one-on-one percentages are really good. It's when he takes possession afterwards. At the moment, the transition out isn't as smooth as what it could be, but it will fix itself in time. Absolutely no doubt. I mean, we all remember early rants. And he's nowhere near that level of stupidity. So, there's plenty to work with.
Yeah, I think he understands his limitations most of the time. And I'm happy for him just to be that spoiling defender. Just kill the contest, bring it to ground. And sometimes his forward will get goal side and will kick goals. But at the end of the day, most more weeks often than not, we're going to concede 8 to 10 goals plus anyway. So shit happens, and it's just going to be a learning thing. If it keeps happening on and on and on, then obviously we have a bit of an issue there. But I'm happy to keep persisting with him because I think it adds a bit more flexibility. And long term, when Gibcus comes back, maybe he's the forward option if Rewalt retires, or it gives us another bit of a advantage there too to trial some things maybe.
Flexibility,
because I think we can't shift Bolter. He's been too good.
If anyone dares suggest that Bolter plays anywhere other than back, I will hunt you down. Bolter is a defender. That's what he is.
No, he's very much. Defender. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Young should have given this week a terrible Grock. Come on, mate. Jesus Christ.
He looks a good player, that Amiss.
He's a bloody good kick for goal. Isn't it
a beautiful, simple set shot routine?
Yeah.
He takes 2 or 3 steps and he drops it onto his foot, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. The other player I want to talk about, more so about the incident, is Mansell. Now, had some great Twitter coverage today. I did have a few better things to do with my day, but look, I think first and foremost, and I'm probably guilty of posting. I posted a still shot to try and explain the point, and maybe that led to a bit more angst than what it should have been. But watching that bump, or whatever you want to call that contest in real time, there was an absolute nanosecond between it was the player. Aish, thank you. It was a nanosecond between Aish touching the ball and when contact was made from Mansell. So up until that very point, he was trying to win the ball as well as what Aish was. It was a 50-50 contest, and you are allowed to try and win the ball, and there is allowed to be incidental contact as a result of that. And no, it's not great that someone gets knocked out. I still don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being biased, I don't think he hit him fully flush in the head, because if he did, he would have been out for a long. They were running at some serious speed.
He got him in the head. It was secondary. It was secondary.
I reckon he hit shoulder first and then went up, and so it kind of took away the brunt, which is good for Aisha's sake. I don't want anyone to be hurt. But they were both going for the footy, and you said it best on Twitter that you can have incidental contact. So people trying to compare this to Tom Stewart are just absolute drop kicks.
Tom Stewart went past the ball after the ball had left the area to lay a hit just to be a tough guy. Completely different, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is more in line with Lynch when he went to go for the mark, didn't make the mark at the last moment, turned to protect himself, and unfortunately knocked out Keith, right?
Yep.
And here's the thing. Now, Jared Healy said this on Sports Day last week before. What is not happening now, and this is a direct result of them changing the rules about protecting their head, right? So they've got these rules in now that their head's going to be protected. So players now are going in wide open, right? When I'm how old am I? What day is it? I'm 52, right? I was taught to go in and approach behind the shoulder. You tuck yourself in. You protect yourself at all times. Players go in now completely open. Back in 2017, when everyone goes, Koch, when Asprey was the one that knocked him out. But Koch went in, Koch tucked behind his shoulder. Shield had his arms out like that, completely wide open. The players are not protecting themselves. If Aish protects himself at the same time as what Mansell does, no one is knocked out, and away we go.
Exactly, and there was no ill intent, because if he was legitimately lining him up from that far away, the entire Fremantle squad would have been on top of Mansell in a heartbeat.
Not one person demonstrated.
No, because you look at the footage and the eyes were on the ball the entire time. Both of them were just going hard at it, and Mansell got to the ball maybe a nanosecond after Aish did, so he had to do the right thing, brace yourself, and it's just unfortunate. It's like there was an incident a few years ago when Jack Viney got suspended a few years ago for winning a hard ball 50-50 get that got overturned because you're allowed to win the footy. And I actually think this going to tribunal is a benefit rather than if it was MRO, because MRO, based on the matrix, he would get weeks because it's outcome driven. But I think if it's going to be assessed in front of a panel, I think there's actually a chance that he could get off.
Right. I've got a question for you. At any stage in that process, was he attempting to bump?
Well, he wasn't trying to bump. The bump happened because at that.
No. It wasn't a bump. It was a collision.
Collision.
At any stage, was he applying a bump?
No.
No, he was contesting the ball.
That's right. It's a football act. He was.
You must be able to contest the ball. Right? You must be able to contest the ball. If Mansell had have turned side on and dropped his shoulder and driven in for a bump, he goes for 3-4 weeks and nobody complains about it, because that was his intent, was to bump. He was trying to get the ball. There was zero intent, and look, I don't think it's the only contentious decision this weekend. We look at the
Sicily's tackle. Yep.
Sicily actually drags him down from behind because he lunges at him to get him, and it just so happens that McGluggage's own inertia, is that what you call it? His own movement, his own weight transference caused him to spin around and hit the ground. It was nothing to do with what Sicily did, and yet Sicily's gone to the tribunal with 3 weeks hanging over his head.
Yep.
We've got to get away from this. They've been injured. We've got to suspend.
Yeah.
You must go back to, was there an intent? And you must have the ability, not the ability, that's the wrong word. You must have the allowance that incidental and accidental contact is still part of the game. If there's any intent on the player, yes, they get punished. But if the player is contesting the ball, you have to let it ride.
100%. Yeah, it's ludicrous. There's been so many of those tackles this weekend. They've been paid dangerous. It's honestly getting to a point where they may as well chuck 2 tags in the shorts of players and play touch football. It's batshit crazy. So
there's a good tweet.
G'day, Mum.
Lachlan Smith 904. Right. Tribunal's minimum 3 weeks, right? Tribunal, yeah, okay. So Pickett launched himself like a missile and was only trying to take the bloke's head off and got 2 weeks. And yet, if Mansell doesn't get off, he's contesting the ball and he gets 3. It
doesn't make sense.
No.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. So I don't know whether it's a mandatory 3 because it's at tribunal, but if it is, if we don't appeal
if guilty, it's a mandatory 3. Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's easily grounds to argue this down to that it was, it was a football act and just Aish was unlucky. So, anyway, never a dull moment.
Are we talking about other things out of the game? Are we going to talk about the umpiring or not?
Yes. Oh, God. It would be amiss of us to not speak about the umpiring. And Tiggs has missed his opportunity tonight. My God.
Oh, look, now I'm the number one. Play it down. You can't say they're corrupt. You can't say this. You can't say that. I was watching that game on the weekend, and for the first time in I can't remember how long, I was saying this is just not right. This is just not fair. And what was it? It was 16-3 at three-quarter time. It then went to 18-3 at the start of the last quarter, and then we got a rush of 4 free kicks at the end once we stitched it up, right, to make it look like okay. There was one particular incident amongst many, and it was that bloody O'Gorman. No, they're not corrupt, RFC. They are not corrupt. But when we play a certain way and we get a reputation, then we cop it, right? There was Short was in a bit of a scuffle on their half-forward flank, and O'Gorman saying, watch your contact, Jaden. And the 2 players got bumped together. Short was on the ground. The Freo player hit him in the face on the ground in full view of O'Gorman, and he's saying, no, come on, get up. It had to be a free kick. It was a punch or a strike. It wasn't a punch. It was a strike to the face. Short was on his back on the ground. It was right in front of O'Gorman, like he was 1 metre away, and he didn't pay it. And I just thought, at that point, that's it. I've had enough.
It was a disaster. And like the 3 free kicks we had up until the third quarter, one of those was a kick out of bounds in the full. So we actually only received 2 free kicks. And
the Freo crowd booed us when we got those.
I know. The irony of those clowns Bronx cheering when they got a free kick. I'm like, are you people serious? Now, I think it's important to state, and we've said this for the last 5, 6, 7 years, the ones we give away aren't the issue. They're all there. I'm fine with that. No issue whatsoever.
What do we have? We had 16 against us at three-quarter time. We probably, in essence, gave away more than 16 free kicks, I believe. Like, we go close to the edge. I've got 0 issue with the free kicks that we gave away. Not one issue.
But the amount of times that they dropped a ball when they were being tackled, swung around or threw it, incorrect disposal, Vlosten got crunched high in a contest. There was just so many that kept happening. And like, we've got 4 umpires now that are meant to cover more angles, and they just all went missed or just kept being called play on. And it's like, what is going on? And, I'm kind of a bit disappointed that Tiggs didn't come on tonight because it would have been very entertaining. But he was probably the first I know of that was onto this O'Gorman piece a long way out, to the point where that a few people went back through some games that he's umpired against us, and it's been severely lopsided free kicks for opposition versus us. Like, I'm talking 17-1 in those areas. And you don't want to think cheat or corruption, even though I think I tweeted that in a burst of outrage. But questions have to be asked at some point, because that isn't right. In a game that's wet and it was a bit boggy conditions and it was very contested, there is no way a team could be that clean for 3 quarters. Impossible. And you could see that they weren't, because we missed free kicks.
So Sir Swamp Thing normally answers a request, right? Now I put out a question, right? because we laid 60 tackles on the weekend and we did not generate one holding the ball or incorrect disposal free kick. And I actually tweeted Sir Swamp Thing and I said, what is the record for the most tackles laid by a side without generating a holding the ball, incorrect disposal free kick? And didn't get an answer.
Okay.
So we laid 60 tackles and didn't get one.
Yeah.
Now, you're probably only going to get 4 or 5 out of that in a normal game. I'm not saying that we didn't get 20, but we did not get one dropping the ball, holding the ball, incorrect disposal. Not one.
And there was probably at least 5 that were quite clearly in the view on broadcast anyway that should have been paid. It was it was ridiculous.
When Kane Corns is in your corner advocating that you got the raw end of the pineapple, you know things. As a Richmond supporter, you know you've got the rough stick.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's also a sign of how bad it is when you're winning games and still have the same issues and concerns. Like it's one thing when you can get accused of pissing and moaning if you lose the game and blame, and no one has ever blamed the umpires, but like they kept Freo in that. Let's be honest, we would have had them on toast actually, early days if it wasn't for that.
Nick's raised a very good point, and I do remember the tackle actually because it was a double tackle. Rioli got paid one in the last. I do remember that. Thank you, Nick. Good point.
So, and I put out a tweet. I think Richmond's end of game tweet was, "We're up against it, but won and the score." So I think they were kind of subtly acknowledging what had happened. And I put in there, look, give Minnie McQualter the green light to go his hardest in the presser. Start a GoFundMe, and we'll all cover the fine for calling it how it is, because that was just some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. But and Basil was no better either with the commentary. Jesus Christ!
Oh,
but,
please.
Yeah, what a disaster that was. I only got seven for the game. Anyway, I don't want to give them any more airtime than we should. We all saw it was a debacle. And the thing is, it's not isolated. That's the problem. It's not just one game out of the box that it happens. It's been happening for quite a few years now. And it's too hard to believe that a team can be that clean for 3 quarters. Just ridiculous. But anyway, we got the win, and that's all that matters. Speaking of the win though, EJ, before we look at the St Kilda game, it gets us back in the hunt. I know we're still outside the 8, but it breathes a little bit of life back into us. And I know we said this probably a few weeks ago, but the next 3 games are probably crucial. We have to go at least 2-1 at a minimum to keep ourselves alive and a half a chance to make it.
Yeah. It's a tough game this week too.
Yeah, very tough.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone watched the St Kilda Sydney game and has woken up from that yet. If they could comment in the chat, that first quarter was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. St Kilda are very, very well set up defensively. Ross is back. We're going to have to be on. Well, not every year, Gino, but every year since about 2017. I think the MCG, a percentage isn't important for us because we had a draw, so we're fine there.
That's it, which is good.
I think the MCG works in our favour this week. I do note that we've got St Kilda again in a few weeks, so we really need to bank this one. We got the bye after this, yeah?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, so this is a big swing before the bye. And then after the bye,
the Saints, and like you said, the Saints have probably typically had the wood over us, even in 17 when we got belted by them by 80 or 100 points, whatever it was. So it's like they're one of those teams that match up well against us for whatever reason. But when's the last time we played them at the G is my first question, if anyone happens to know that. But it's going to be massively important to win this game if we're giving ourselves any chance. And I know we're not a long way back, are we? We're relatively close, but you want to be going into the bye with if we can have 3 in a row under our belt going into the bye, we maybe get Hopper back after the bye. Lynch is probably still a few more weeks away after that anyway, I guess.
Yeah,
pardon me, but is that right, Jax? 2006, 2009. So either way, it's not really that recent since we last played them at the G, but they knocked off the Swans by 14 points, and I think for me it's their forwards that could cause us the most issues here, EJ.
Maybe. I reckon I was honing in on their defence. There you go. It tells you they're pretty good all over the place. Is one of the forwards out? Yeah, they look good. I mean, Caminiti, King, Butler, the little bastard. Gresham,
Owens,
that little bloke that couldn't hack it here. What's his name? Higgins. He's been going all right. He's been going all right. Mason Wood on the wing. He's going unreal.
Mason Wood.
Mason Wood. When did
ever since his Kangaroos days, he plays his best game yearly against us, no matter what club he plays for. But he has had a good year this year. I will say that. But at the Kangaroos, he was far worse on an average performance across the year. But he would play out of his skin against us. Never made sense.
It never made sense. I used to hate coming up against North Melbourne because Mason would be due to kick 4 goals.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. They're just a good, even football club at the moment, right across the ground.
That's not a bad point from CJ. Saints are an effort team, not talent. Let's hope they are off.
Yep. I mean, and that's what we were. We were an effort team. We've got the effort back. I don't think it'll be a free-flowing affair, but if we bring our best, we should be right. Yeah, that's true, Nathan. The SCG and Marvel suit them. The skinnier sort of...
Yeah, definitely. The wider ground should definitely...
Yeah.
Yeah, the wider ground should definitely help us. But looking at that, I know you mentioned their back line as a concern. So they've got Josh Battle, Dougal Howard, Callum Wilkie, Webster, Sinclair, and Wanganeen Malira. They won't necessarily play too much down back, but the others are...
So do we send someone to Sinclair? Do we play a Ryan? Do we play, if he's available, do we play a Ryan Mansell on Sinclair?
If it's not Mansell, it's Baker.
Yep.
So either one, just to do a little bit of a defensive run with roll, but you want to hurt them the other way. That's the important part, is it? It's one thing to stop possession and stop them creating attack, but you've got to make them accountable the other way.
Yeah, but if we can constrict their movement, goes a long way to it. And Sinclair is a massive. He's their Sard, but better than Sard. He gives them their drive.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's I'd like to think Mini will put some work into him and get him shut down. Forward line wise, Max King. I mean, the obvious answer there is Bolter. Will we see that matchup again? No questions asked, you reckon? Just straight into it?
Yeah.
So then it comes down to, Gresham is probably the other one that causes a bit of grief, usually up forward. Would you go Dan Rioli? Would you go Broad, Vlosten? Where would you sort of go with that one?
I'd go Rioli, and that also makes Gresham accountable when Rioli breaks the other way. I want Vlosten to be kept more as a floater.
Yeah,
I think
intercept
where do we go? Vlosten had 9 intercepts on the weekend, leading us for the team. So you want Vlosten to have a little bit more freedom, and I don't think you can get that on Gresham because Gresham is a little bit smaller and quicker than him. So, yeah, Broad for Owens, don't mind that.
And Philippe's not bad either. Philip, he's been dangerous too. I think, to touch back what you said on earlier, they're a very well-rounded team.
Yep, they're probably a season or two away from being what they're going to be, but you can see what with their young kids, you can see what they're going to become, and they're a good side. They'll be a tough challenge.
And what about from our own backyard perspective in terms of changes? What are we thinking this week? I think we have to maybe assume that Mansell's out to be on the safer side, although I really think he should get cleared of this, but knowing the AFL and how that's like, I don't hold my breath. We assume Mansell comes out. I'm not sure Ralph Smith did enough to warrant. He's such a frustrating player because he can do so many good things, but I'm not sure of his impact as the sub. So do you reckon those two will go out and will Pickett play?
I don't think Pickett will play.
So it could be 3 forced changes.
Yeah. I think. Look, and again, we're not trying to stray into the territory of Pickett.
but you would think mentally that maybe just this week off would be the smart thing to do. Yes, thank you.
Well, this one, Matthew Adams. Yep.
Yeah, I'm really, really hoping it's Banks time. Banks time.
Does Rioli Jr. come in for Mansell? Apparently, he didn't shoot the lights out at VFL, but I think like for like in terms of pace and aggression, it's probably
and I don't think he has to shoot the lights out in VFL. He's quick and he's going to scare people and he's going to provide defensive pressure. There you go, Hugo on the wing. I like Hugo. I don't know why I do, but I do.
Sonzi is another one that apparently I saw a few people saying that Sonzi, it seems like he's getting bored of VFL level, like he's just finding it too easy.
So I don't get a chance to watch much VFL. Why is Sonzi not getting a game? Because towards the end of last year and playing in that final against Brisbane, I just expected Sonzi to come out and be an AFL footballer this year.
I thought the same thing. I thought he was going to be a lock from the get-go. The only thing I can think of is similar to the Cumberland reasons is a defensive thing. But it wasn't really glaringly obvious to me watching him play those last games of the year. I didn't really look at it and go, okay, kid can use the ball, but has to do X, Y, and Z. But I know, that's why the coaches are the coaches, I guess. But haven't really seen anything specific on him. What did Grok say? Defensive efforts have dropped off, not running and chasing hard enough.
So he's got a bit of the Cumberlands about him.
No pre-season as well. Can't defend at the moment. And he was probably another one of those players where I felt like that he would actually play his best football in the AFL team.
Yes.
And I know that doesn't mean you can just put him in there because you do have to earn your spot. But you could see a stark difference from his form at VFL level to AFL level, went up quite a few notches when he was surrounded with the better players.
Yep. And he just seems to understand the time and space in AFL really well.
Yeah.
It's like it's not foreign to him when he comes in. So, yeah. Oh, look, I really like Sonzi. I hope he makes it. Oh, Biggie.
Yeah, I hope he does too. Yeah. So, all right. So who's going to come in then? Do you reckon Rioli, Banks?
Banks is the only one that I reckon that I can say for sure. I don't know. I don't know enough, and I'd be probably relying more on the comments than I don't get to see VFL very often because I've got my son's sport at the moment. So apart from watching Richmond games, I miss a lot of the other stuff. So I don't see the VFL very often. Okay, there you fascinating. Go.
And Cumberland's probably the other one, but apparently he was injured. So I'm not sure if that's a long-lasting injury or if that's something he's over or not. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think this is a good point too, CJ. The 6-day break, the travel to Perth, win in the rain. It'd be interesting to see how we're holding up mentally. Like they know the bye's around the corner, so if they got one more effort in them to get to the break, I'm sure they're all playing sore in some capacity. Bauer told he's been close as well. Yeah, I think Grok, if Mansell gets suspended, I think Rioli Jr. has to come in for forward pressure. We need to stay like for like for a balance reason because it's the most balanced we've looked for quite some time, and we're winning games because of it. So, yeah, I wouldn't like to go too tall down there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. Is there anything else we should be doing to try and win this game? I mean, I think we've got a little bit of our chaos movement back, EJ. You look at the Jack Rewalt tap-ons between his legs and things like that, getting the ball forward at all costs. It feels like we're sort of regaining a little bit of our mojo.
Yeah, and the motivation of the Chimps' 300th game should not be underestimated. It's Koch's 300th this week. It's a massive day for the football club. He becomes only the 6th Richmond player to play 300 games. And if you look at the players that, Bartlett, 403, Jackson, 337, Dyer, 311, Edwards, 303. The great St. Francis Burke, probably the only player I know that's been tougher than Liam Baker. they're massive, massive names in our club, and someone who will be a legend or an immortal, as I think they call them at Richmond, the Richmond Football Club, the only 3-time premiership skipper for this football club. He holds the all-time record for Richmond for tackles in a season, 139. 3 times, 3 out of the top 10 performances for most clearances in a season, 4 out of the top 10 most contested possessions in a season. This guy has been a beast for us, often not respected by the rest of the competition in the way that he should be. Absolutely changed his game. That tackles record was set in 2017 when Dusty set a clearance record. So Koch changed his game from being a Brownlow medalist possession king to being a defensive beast for us. He set our culture along with marriage. There is no reason that we lose this game this weekend if Trent Cotchin means anything to us.
Yeah, I couldn't have said any of that better myself. So the only thing I'll add, and a few people have pointed out, and we mentioned earlier that Dusty could be on the verge. If there was a time he's going to do it, it's going to be for his mate Koch, because they have been through thick and thin together, on and off the field, it must be said. So a lot of support that Koch has given Dusty throughout his journey. And yeah, if there was a time that Dusty was going to wind back the clock another couple of years and just go absolutely berserk, this could be it. So
I just got goosebumps from what you said then.
Really?
Seriously,
when you were talking,
you're right. Dusty could go bunter this week because of Koch. You're right.
It's going to be a massive, massive occasion, and yeah, he will undoubtedly have a statue out the front of Punt Road at some point in time, along with probably Dimmer, Benny Gale, and Peggy.
Like the end of Return of the Jedi, the hologram statue with the
yeah. It's a super, super effort from Cotchin, and he's gotten better as the years gone on, which is good. And he will have another further point to prove, and I will be gobsmacked if we aren't up for this game. They'll be chomping at the bit, so which will be good. And I do hope that Dimmer is back for this one, Nick. I haven't heard one way or another, but I would be shocked if he didn't make an effort to get back to see this game in person.
Yeah, you'd be disappointed. Actually, you'd be disappointed.
Yeah, given what they've gone through together as captain coach, the journey they went on. I reckon he'll be back for it. So fingers crossed anyway. But we'll get a tip including margin for this one.
I think we are going to be up for this, and I think we're going to win by 34 points.
Oh, that would send a serious
34 points. That is.
Oh, he's got the Jack Graham time. Well done. That was a nice message. I think we'll get up by 18. I think it'll be just another big team effort to get it done for Koch. Go into the bye with 3 wins in a row and really get refreshed and set ourselves for a big second half of the year. But realistically, if we're a chance to be contending for finals this year, this is a must-win game. It has to be said. We have to win a lot of our games from here on out, but we need to be beating these teams that are above us to get any sort of chance to catch up. So I have noticed a couple of questions in here about trade news, and I've actually got one tonight. I won't say who it came from in case he didn't want me to, but it's a very, very legitimate source because the news he gets often is identical to what Tiggs gets, which is interesting. So the news was that Nick Larkey from the Kangaroos is another forward of interest, not for this year, for next year, which could be a possible backup to King if that falls through. I would be equally as happy with Larkey, just for the record.
For the record, I'd be happier. I'm absolutely. I'm. That is amazing. Larkey is such a good set shot. King.
Yeah. So.
Larkey. I love Larkey.
Long-term deal. Well, what's this person talking? Well, I mean, do deals mean anything though these days? How long do you sign for?
I got really excited.
Well, there you go. Nick just says word is we're after both. So contracts don't necessarily mean
7-year deal. 7-year deal. He didn't, did he?
North might have to pay somewhere. Anyway, I'm just passing on what I was told, and the person's usually reliable that if we show interest in someone, like I said, it usually matches up. So whether it comes off or not, it's a completely different story. But just passing on what I said, I'll go back with the contracts question, but I have no reason to doubt this individual and the info he would receive. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. But
okay, I'll make a point on this. So a lot of people saying 7-year deal, 6-year deal, etc., etc. That actually might work from a point of view is if we're serious and if we are going hard. The 7-year deal is for known amount of money. It's a known amount of money. So maybe that has been factored in as it we know how much it would cost. So Taranto's on a 7-year deal, right? We know Richmond know what Taranto's getting paid. If Larkey signed a 7-year deal, it's at X amount of dollars. It's a known quantity. And if that is known by us, maybe that's why we're looking at it. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, I'll double fact. He was on with the fact. I'll double check and see what's happening on that front and report back. The other part I wanted to mention quickly that I touched on at the start. How nice is it seeing Carlton sitting in the bottom 4 just quietly? And I was going through my phone today just to delete a heap of videos and stuff because there's shit everywhere from the kids recording, whatever. And I noticed, and I forgot I had this, I noticed I had a folder called Carlton Nuffies, and I'd screenshot a bunch of tweets that I copped late last year when Brisbane knocked us out of the finals, because I kind of went after them a little bit when Collingwood knocked them out in the last 30 seconds, which was still very, very funny. And a few of them come back at me on the night that we lost to Brisbane. And I'm just waiting for the appropriate time to release these back out into the Twitter sphere and tag a few people. Because one of the comments was that Carlton were going to go past us and give us windburn this year. So I'm holding on to that one with very, very keen interest. So if you're a Carlton supporter listening and you have tweeted me at one point, just wait your turn, and these might come back at a rate of knots in the coming weeks.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. So I'm glad I kept that for a reason. And some might call that petty. I call it karma. So there we go. They deserve everything they get. But all a bit of good banter. So we'll see how that goes. I agree, Travis. They are self-imploding, and it's hilarious. But if I can get one back at them, I'm going to take the opportunity to do so, because they will do it to me. But anyway, that is it for the night. Josh is having a ripper time. His best mate's a Carlton supporter. Keep up the strong fight, Josh. Keep doing God's work, mate. Legend. And Christian, I take your point, but they've been beating their own drum up for so long. It's just nice to see them imploding ever so slightly.
We know they're coming, Christian. We know they're coming.
Yeah, and Dusty's barber and his 5-year plan is still causing us grief all these years later, as per their banner.
We know they're coming. We know what they're cooking. We've heard all the slogans.
Yeah, it's very good. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you, EJ, for jumping on. Much appreciated. Tiggs, again, hope you're feeling better, mate. Grok, hope your family outing was good. And CB, hope your Freo junket was very good. He might have some news to report back on that when he's on next. He's done some pretty good work over there, it must be said.
Yes, there's a bit to look forward to.
And EJ, that when he's on next, you have to use your display picture as that photo you sent through that you added a couple of...
Yes, I've got it ready to go.
Yeah, thank you. That was very, very funny. So you make sure you use that image next week. That was an absolute cracker. But so CB's
I can't wait to have lids. I can't wait to have lids back on the show.
Yeah, make sure we do that too, guys. When CB's on next, please address him as Lids in the chat, just to keep the banter ongoing for our sake. So make sure you get around us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever that you follow our content. Always happy to interact and talk Tiger talk with everyone. Other than that, have a great night, everybody, and hopefully we can see you all again on Monday with a big win, and make sure we get to the G for Koch's 300th. Absolute superstar of the footy club, and he deserves all of our love and support if we can get there. He's an absolute legend, and hopefully the Tigers can get up for him this weekend. So have a good night, everybody, and until next time, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.